Dear students, in this lecture, we are going to take forward the story of arrival of European colonial forces into India. So till now we have already discussed how the Portuguese came and established themselves in India. Then we saw what happened to the Dutch, the rise and fall of the Dutch East India Company. So now let us see which was the next European power to enter the territories of India. So in this lecture, we would be discussing the arrival of the British. So as you know very well that British have ruled over us for almost 200 years. So their rule is supposed to have begun at 1757 and you know that it ended in 1947. But they have arrived in India much before. So during this time period, because 1757 is a remarkable date, this is Battle of Plassey. So you will see later on that British won Battle of Plassey, after which they became masters of India. But they have actually arrived much before. So they have arrived in India in 1690 itself. So their initial 100-150 years were more like a trading company. So we will see the initial days of the British East India Company. How did they arrive? What all major events took place? So let's see, how did the East India Company got formed? The English East India Company, so you can see this picture. This is the portrait of East India Company. So East India Company was formed by a group of merchants known as merchant adventurers in 1599. So you can see this portrait. So this is the chamber of East India Company. On 31st December 1600 AD, Queen Elizabeth issued a charter with rights of exclusive trading to the company named the Governor and Company of Merchants of London, trading into the East India Company. So a few merchants of Britain and Europe, they came together and they established a company which was known as English East India Company, because there were many East India Company formed in different countries. There was Dutch East India Company, there was Portuguese East India Company, and now we have English East India Company. So immediately after this, they formed a company. The Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth, gave them the authority, gave them the charter that yes, you have the permission of British government because you are British citizens. So whatever you will do, you have to take permission from British. So British Queen gave them the permission that you have the exclusive trading rights, because there are many companies of the same name. So your company will have the exclusive rights. That means no other company of Britain will become your competitor. So you have the exclusive trading, and you can go to India and you can create the post of governor. So this is what was meant by the charter. If you go, then how will you introduce yourself? So you can call yourself Governor of East India Company. So now company has been formed, permission has been granted. So these British people now come to India. So in 1608, the East India Company board members decided that let's open a factory at Surat. Surat is in Gujarat. The English ambassador Captain Hawkins arrived at Jahangir's court. So he is Captain Hawkins, William Hawkins. So Captain William Hawkins, the first contact made by the British in the Mughal court was during the time of Jahangir, 1609. Akbar had already died in 1606. So the English ambassador Captain William Hawkins arrived at Jahangir's court in 1609 to seek permission for trade with India. But initially it was turned down due to Portuguese influence, because Portuguese were present in India for last 110 years. So they had already made their clout at the Mughal court. So they did not want any competitor. So they influenced Jahangir that you should not give permission to this British people. So it was turned down. That means in the first attempt, the British did not get the permission. So this convinced the English of the need to overcome Portuguese influence at the Mughal court. So because the Portuguese were influencing the Mughal emperors, so the British thought that let's do something about these Portuguese people. So they decided that if we have to succeed in India, we will have to first fight this enemy called the Portuguese people. So now what will the Englishmen do to impress Mughals? So Mughals have turned down their request. The British achieved a major victory over the Portuguese in the Battle of Swali near Surat. Because this was a battle for Surat. The Portuguese had already established a very big factory at Surat. What is the significance of Surat? Surat is the coastal town. It is easy to take your ships there and back from there. The British achieved a major victory over the Portuguese in the Battle of Swali. So this occurred in 1612. They had asked for permission in 1609, but the permission was not given. Now they have proved that we are more powerful than the Portuguese because we have defeated them. So 2 English naval ships defeated an entire Portuguese naval squadron. So what was the problem of Mughals? Mughals did not have a good navy. Portuguese had a very, formidable navy. Really a powerful navy. So that's why Mughals never thought of coming into direct conflict with Portuguese people, because they knew that Portuguese fight with the use of navy, but we don't have navy. But now another European country has entered into India, which also have navy. These victories led the Mughals to hope that in view of their naval weakness, they could use the English to conquer the Portuguese on the sea. So the relations between the Mughals and Portuguese were not very friendly. But Mughals did not do anything against Portuguese because they didn't have a strong navy. But now Mughals saw that British can help them because British managed to defeat Portuguese. So Mughal thought that why not make friendship with British people? So that is how the Englishmen impressed the Mughals. Moreover, the Indian merchants would certainly benefit by the competition among their foreign buyers. So earlier there was only one buyer. Portuguese, they used to buy from Indian people. Now you have British. So if two customers, want to buy the same product, the price of the product will obviously get increased. So this was the thought process going on in the minds of the Mughals. So now they are impressed with British and they will allow them to open their factories. So Captain Bust succeeded in getting a royal farman means order, from Jahangir, permitting the English to build a factory in Surat, Khambat, Ahmedabad and Goa in 1613. So you can see this is the first factory of Surat. So in 1909, permission denied. In 1609, permission denied. In 1613, permission given. But before this, you have to remember one fact. In 1611 itself, the Britishers have started trading from Masulipatam. They have not opened a factory there, Masulipatam in Andhra Pradesh. So because they were not given permission, so they became disappointed. They went to a place which was not part of Mughal Empire. So Masulipatam was not part of Mughal Empire. So they did not require permission from Mughals, and they started their trade port. They were just trading from there. They had not started factory. But now Mughals are impressed. Mughals have given them permission. So in 1613, they are officially opening a factory at Surat. So question is, where did the first British factory got opened? The answer is Surat. So even before this factory, one factory was established. It was not exactly a factory, you can say trading point. So one trading point was established at Machilipatnam. Today it is known as Machilipatnam. Back then it was known as Masulipatnam. So now you have opened a factory. So now Britishers are encouraged, Britishers are excited. So in 1615, British ambassador Sir Thomas Roy reached the Mughal court. Who was the emperor? Jahangir was the emperor. So now formal relationship is getting established between the British government and Mughal government, because British government has sent an accredited ambassador. Who appoints ambassador? Company does not appoint ambassador, government appoints ambassador. So it is sent by British king. So this ambassador, his name was Thomas Roy. So Thomas Roy succeeded in getting an imperial farman to trade, establish factories in all parts of Mughal empire, because now already Mughals were impressed, they wanted to make friends. So ambassador has come now with an official request. Ambassador means what? You have been sent by the king. So king, one king is requesting another king that please allow us to open factories and do trade in the entire Mughal empire, because you are the Mughal emperor, so you can give us permission. So that permission was given because he succeeded in granting. So now British have established their foothold in India, but their competitors are Portuguese. So Roy's success further angered the Portuguese, because Portuguese did not want that British should become their competition. But now Mughals have given them permission. Mughals are trying to become friends with British. So Portuguese administrators did not like this at all, and a fierce naval battle, because both were navy, both had, they didn't have large scale battleground army, but they had navies, so they used to fight ship by ship. So naval battle started between the British and the Portuguese, and the English emerged as victorious. English managed to defeat the Portuguese people. So hostilities between the two came to an end in 1630. So finally, the British managed to defeat Portuguese. The Portuguese people accepted their defeat. In 1662, the Portuguese gave the island of Bombay. So this is the map of Bombay back then. Today it is known as Mumbai. So it was composed of 7 islands. So you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So these were the 7 islands. It was very small back then, but it was under control of Portuguese. So the Portuguese gave the island of Bombay to King Charles. He is King Charles of England, as dowry for marrying a Portuguese princess. So now they have established diplomatic relation. King of England is marrying princess of Portuguese. So now no more fighting. So Portuguese gifted Bombay to, not to East India Company, but to King of England. So he is the King of England, she is the princess of Portuguese, both married each other. So eventually the Portuguese lost all their possessions in India except Goa, Daman and Diu. So you can say that the chapter of Portuguese is closed. So the British have replaced them. So British have now replaced their major competitors. So now they start expanding. So how did British, see, British have already become operational in Surat. That means West India was already under their control. They have got Bombay also. So West India is already under their control. So now their attention shifts to South India. Remember, that already in 1611 they have already opened a trading port at Masulipatam. So conditions in South India were more favorable to the English as they did not have to face a strong government there, because in most of North India the Mughals were controlling, why to say most, the entire North India was being controlled by Mughal, but in South India they were limited only till Aurangabad. I mean, places like Kerala, Tamil Nadu were not under their control. Andhra Pradesh was also not under their control. So these British people, they decided that let's go to South India so that we will have lesser amount of interference from Mughals. The English opened their first factory. It should not be called technically a factory. It was a trade port at Masulipatam, which is today known as Machlipatam. So Machlipatam in Andhra Pradesh in 1611. But they soon shifted the center of their activity to Madras, the lease of which was granted to them by a local king in 1639. So this is how they acquired city after city: Surat, Masulipatam, and now they have moved to Madras. Later on they got Bombay as dowry. Bombay they got in 1662. But before that they have established in South India. So first their attention was at Masulipatam. Later on they shifted their activity, or their, you can say, power center to Madras. The English built a small fort around their factory called Fort St. George in Madras. So you can see this fort. This is Fort St. George in Madras. By the end of 17th century, the English company was claiming full sovereignty over Madras. That means by the end of 17th century, that means during 1690s, the Madras was, by then Madras had totally come under control of British. There was no Mughal interference. There was no interference of any other local power. Now, British foothold in Bengal. Bengal, being a large and rich province in India, appeared an attractive proposition to the profit-seeking English merchants. So obviously Bengal was very largest province. It was the largest. See, entire Mughal territory was divided into 12 provinces. Out of those 12 provinces, the richest and biggest was Bengal. So it was obvious that if you have to make money, Bengal is the place where you should go and do business. So Bengal was also an important province of the Mughal Empire. Shah Suja, who was the Subedar of Bengal. Subedar means what? In charge of a Suba. Suba means province. So he was the Subedar of Bengal in 1651. So Shah Suja, the Subedar, allowed the English to trade in Bengal in return of an annual payment of rupees 3,000. So in today's term, this rupees 3, even if you convert this in today's term, it will not come out to be more, it won't be more than 10 lakhs. So in return of 3,000 rupees, entire Bengal, the trade of Bengal, permission to trade in entire of Bengal was given to these Britishers. So just after getting the permission, from whom did they get the permission? From Shah Suja. Who was Shah Suja? He was the Subedar who was working under the Mughals. So now they have the permission to do business in Bengal. So that's why they opened factories. The first factory was opened at Hooghly. Immediately after getting the permission, they immediately opened a factory at Hooghly, and nearby places such as Kasim Bazar, Patna and Rajmahal. So Patna today is in Bihar, Rajmahal today is in Jharkhand. So you can understand that how big Bengal of that time was. Kasim Bazaar is today, I think today also it's in Bengal or either in Bangladesh, I'm not sure. But this will give you an idea that how big Bengal of that time was. So this is how the Britishers entered into Bengal. So they have already captured West India. I won't say captured, but they have settled in West India, Surat, Bombay. Then they went to South India, Madras, and now they have come to Bengal. Okay, one more point you should remember. Before acquiring Bombay, Surat was their capital of West India because they have divided India into territories, West, South, East. So Surat used to be the capital. Later on, as soon as they got Bombay, they made Bombay their capital of West India. So this is how British entered into Bengal. So after entering into Bengal, they, due to their greed and lack of you can say policy decision making, they got into conflict with the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb. What did they do? East India Company wanted to have a fortified settlement at Hooghly, so they appealed to Shaista Khan, the Mughal governor of Bengal, in 1682 for permission. So why do you want to build a fort? So you have a factory here, so, but you want to build fort. So if you want to build fort, that means you want to bring your army. Fort means what? You have to put your army there. So Mughals thought that you are a company, then why do you want to build fort? Do you want to fight a war or what? So that's why the appeal was turned down. The permission was not given. And relations between the English and the Mughals became tense. See, building a fort, why building a fort is not acceptable to Mughals. Suppose you have 1,000 soldiers in this fort. So these soldiers will come out of the fort. They will, fight with Mughals. They will go back in their fort and they can remain there protected. So fort is a strategic, it's a strategy. If you build a fort, you can protect yourself. You can go out, fight, and then come back and hide. So that was not acceptable. That why do you want to build a fort? So that's why permission was not given. So 4 years later, the British tries to capture a Mughal fort at Hooghly. So what actually happened? There was Hooghly River. There was British factory. This side, there was a Mughal fort on the other side of the river. So this Mughal fort was a small fort. It was not well guarded. So these British people, they thought that why not capture this fort only. So they tried to capture a Mughal fort at Hooghly. So this news reached Aurangzeb, and Aurangzeb was mad with anger. He sent the Mughal forces to Hooghly that go and destroy the British factories, British settlements at Hooghly. So this is also known as Siege of Hooghly. So this took place in 1686, because in 1682 they have asked for permission 4 years later. That means 1682 plus 4. 1686, this fight broke out. Now Mughal army was ordered by Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb ordered the governor of Bengal that what are you doing? You are looking this tamasha. Go and kill all the Britishers. Go and destroy their factories of Hooghly. So this conflict came to be known as Anglo-Mughal War, and it lasted for 4 years. It began in Hooghly, but it also spread to the rest of the country. So the Mughal forces entered Hooghly, and the English were forced to leave Hooghly and were sent to an unhealthy island of Ingili at the mouth of river Ganga. So they said that get lost from Hooghly. How dare you challenge Mughals? So get lost, get out from here. So they were thrown out and they were forced to go to a place which was just a small island, unhealthy island, because diseases like malaria, scurvy, killed many Britishers when they were staying at this island. So after that, Emperor Aurangzeb issued orders for occupation of East India Company's possessions all over the subcontinent. See, problem started in Hooghly, but they have their factories at Surat, at Machilipatnam, at Madras, at several other places. So now Aurangzeb says that I am not satisfied only with removing them from Hooghly. I will capture all their properties that they have built in India. So that was the order of Aurangzeb. So as a result, possessions of East India Company were reduced to the fortified towns of Madras and Bombay. So everything was snatched from East India Company except the fortified towns of Madras and Bombay, because they have fortified it. So they were well defended. So now you understand the significance of building forts. So this way you can see that for some years the British lost all their powers because they were foolish. They angered the Mughal emperor. They had no idea that who the Mughals are, how powerful they are. So in 1690, the company sent envoys to Aurangzeb's court to plea for a pardon and to renew the trade farman. So now company is asking for forgiveness. They are saying that Mr. Aurangzeb, please forgive us. We made a mistake. We should have not tried to insult you by capturing the Mughal fort. So you can see the Mughal envoy, Sir Josiah Child. So you can see he is Aurangzeb and he is kneeling before Aurangzeb that please forgive us. Don't snatch our factories. Please allow us. Don't take the permission back that you have given to us. So he is Josiah Child. He was begging before Aurangzeb that please forgive us. So Aurangzeb forgave them actually. So after the Mughal raid on Hooghly, Job Charnock, please remember this gentleman's name, Job Charnock, a company agent, that means employee, started negotiations with the Mughals so as to return to a place called Sutanuti. So when Josiah Child had met Aurangzeb had forgiven them. They said that, okay, do not repeat this mistake again. So now British thought that, okay, now let's start again. So Job Charnock started the negotiations again because they were thrown out of Hooghly. So now they are again starting negotiations with Mughals so that they can return to a place called Sutanuti. So you can see here, Sutanuti, everything on the bank of river, because they are trading using ships. So river, ocean, so these are the places of interest for them. So Charnock signed a treaty with the Mughals in February of 1690. The English were allowed to continue their trade in Bengal. So already Aurangzeb had forgiven them. Now they are signing a formal treaty. That means let's start again. The English were allowed to continue their trade in Bengal on the payment of rupees 3,000. That was the agreement that earlier was also there. Shah Suja, you remember Shah Suja? So basically this agreement was again renewed. Forgiven, Britishers were forgiven, and it was said that let's forget everything. Let's continue the arrangement we have decided. In 1698, the English acquired 3 villages of Sutanuti, Govindpur and Kalikata. Actually, they have paid rupees 12,000 to these jamindars. These were villages: Sutanuti, this village number 1, Govindpur, village number 2, and Kalikata, village number 3. So these 3 villages were bought in return of 12,000 rupees. So 3 jamindars owned these villages. So all these 3 jamindars were paid money and the control of the village was taken by British. Just see, all these are located on the banks of river Hooghly. So river Hooghly is actually river Ganga. In Bengal it is known as Hooghly. So the fortified settlement, now you see, these three villages grew up and today we know it as Kolkata. In fact, the name Kalikata has converted or changed to Calcutta. So this is how the story of Calcutta began. Calcutta did not exist before this. There was no place called Calcutta. Now Britishers have established Calcutta. You can say that. The fortified settlement, now again they are building fort. The fortified settlement was named Fort William. You can see this fort. So this is a 18th century painting, the city of Calcutta. So the fortified settlement was named Fort William in the year 1700, when it also became the seat of Eastern Presidency, which came to be known as Calcutta, with Sir Charles Eyre as its first president. Who was the first president? What is meaning of president? Not the president of India. The actual system was British had three major power centers: Bombay, Madras, and now they have established Calcutta. So they used to call them presidencies, three presidencies. So each presidency had an in charge who was known as president, presidency, president. So these settlement, which settlement? Fort William. Fort William. Now in Madras also they have formed a fort. In Madras they have formed Fort George. In Calcutta, Fort William. So you have to remember all this. So these settlements later on grew into the majestic city of Calcutta. So today's Calcutta, 300-400 years back, it did not exist. So Calcutta was built around these three villages and Fort William. So now Mughals are enjoying themselves. They have settled comfortably in Bengal. They have established the city of Calcutta. They have been forgiven by Aurangzeb. So everything is going fine for them. Now comes the major event in the life of East India Company. So after the death of Aurangzeb, the Mughals have become very, very weak. Successors of Aurangzeb were not as powerful. So in the year 1717, the Mughal emperor was Farrukh Shir. He was like a grandson of Aurangzeb. So Mughal emperor Farrukh Shir in 1717 AD issued a royal farman granting the company important trading facilities in Bengal. So now their location is only at Calcutta. Now they will expand. So the Mughal emperor himself, Mughal emperor Farrukh Shir, is giving them permission. Okay, you already have Calcutta. You can establish at more location. I am giving you permission. You can establish trading facilities at important locations. So this included the permission of export and import of British goods in Bengal without paying taxes. So if a foreigner can do business in Bengal without paying taxes. So this would tell you that Farrukh Shir was a weak emperor, weak. So he agreed to whatever the British were telling him. So by then the Mughals have already become weak. So he did not want to fight the Britishers. That's why he is giving them concessions that you be happy, we don't want to fight with you. So now look at the position of Britishers. They are doing business in Bengal. They don't have to pay any taxes. So it's a big benefit for them. Under the Farman, the company was authorized to issue dastaks for the transportation of goods. So see, other people have to pay taxes. This tax concession was given only to East India Company. Suppose some good or some carriage is carrying some article and Mughal soldiers will stop them. Then how will Mughal soldiers come to know that these goods belong to East India Company? We don't have to take tax from them. So for that, passes were issued, passes known as dastaks. So you show that pass to Mughal soldier, the Mughal soldier will allow you to go through without paying any taxes. So pass system was there. So what these Britishers used to do, they used to misuse these passes. They used to give those passes even to their Indian friends so that they also can cheat. Cheating means what? If you have the pass, you don't have to pay tax, but that pass was given only to East India Company. But now East India Company is misusing this pass. East India Company used to charge some money and give their pass to Indian companies as well. So the company, after establishing firmly on the front of commerce and trade, so you can see that company have already established themselves. They have managed to get so many permissions, but now they have become more and more ambitious. They said that, okay, we have established ourselves in India, then why not take an attempt to become the masters of India? Till then they were purely trading company. They were not fighting any major wars with Indians. Fine, they were fighting with other European countries, but they were not fighting any war with Indians as such. But now on, after this incident, they became very powerful. They became very confident that these Mughal emperors are of no use. Whatever we will say them, they will agree. So now they have started making plans that how to capture India. And capture they did. They actually ruled us for 200 years. So we will see the remaining story some other day.